What up, y'all? How's it going? Ben Deen here, and a couple weeks ago, something really messed up happened to me. The craziest thing that I've ever experienced or gone through in my life, and it's really just, it's a terrifying thing.
I feel like I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this one, but guys, I absolutely hit the jackpot. One of the recommended videos that is linked to my Joji cover was a video called Something Real Messed Up Happened to Me by Ben Deen. Now, upon watching this video, I decided to do some of my own research on Ben Deen because I've never heard about him before. He is a Korean YouTuber. He was adopted by American parents. The way that you see him in this video is the exact same way that he acts in almost every single one of his videos, and that's a little bit concerning, and I'm going to tell you guys why. Now, good old Ben here took about 3 weeks off of YouTube recently, and he's about to explain why he did that. I believe this story was covered in a Keemstar video. I haven't watched that video yet, but you are more than welcome to do your own research. So I'm gonna watch this video, just kind of analyze his body language, give him a chance, hear him out, and then I'll get into my reading because I really, really want to know what this messed up thing was that happened. And just like any of my other videos, a disclaimer real quick, keep in mind that body language alone will not 100% tell you if someone is lying or not, but it can be a huge tell. So feel free to take everything I say with a grain of salt. Ultimately, viewer discretion is advised, and you guys can make up your own minds as to whether my reading is correct or not.
So a couple of weeks ago, for Thanksgiving, I did a Thanksgiving live stream. Some of you guys may have seen it. And it was around lunchtime I did it. In Korea, so it was Thanksgiving night for y'all in America. And during the live stream, I was having a good time, and I ate some Popeyes, and I talked about, people were asking me, what are you going to do after the live stream? And I talked about I was going to go meet my girlfriend. She had the day off that day, and we were just going to spend the day together.
I think it's about time that I tell you guys how I determine whether or not someone has a mirroring effect on their video. For instance, this is a screenshot that I took off of Ben Deen's video, Depression and Anxiety, that he made a while ago. Now, I normally look for reference points. I look for any type of poster behind someone, anything that indicates whether a video could be mirrored or not. At first, a standard camera will act like a mirror. If you have a poster behind you when you're filming with a standard camera, most likely it will not be able to read the poster right away. Most cameras tend to flip videos after they're done processing, and that is what I call a mirrored effect. For instance, this video is in fact mirrored because you can accurately read the map behind him. The video would have to look like this in order to not be mirrored, and we all know America does not look like this. So based on that fact, I'm going to go ahead and say that this video is mirrored. One can assume this is his left side and this is his right side.
So after I finished the live stream, I changed my clothes, called my girlfriend, and said, hey, I'm going to head over to your house now. She said, okay. And so I walked to the door, opened it, out into the hallway, and right when I opened the door, there was like a pushback on it. I thought I accidentally hit somebody out in the hallway.
So I'm sure everyone by now knows that there are two different hemispheres in your brain. There's a left hemisphere and there's a right hemisphere. I do get a lot of questions, comments, concerns about the validity of there being such thing as a left brain thinker or a right brain thinker. And I'd like to make it clear that there is no such thing as a left brain thinker or a right brain thinker. However, even though there is no such thing as a holistic right brain thinker or a holistic left brain thinker, either way, the two different sides of the brain do have their own specialties that they're credited in whenever it comes to logic or creative functions. So when people are talking, they use both sides of their brain, especially when they're telling stories. But with body language, you can use the eye directions, the eye movements, to figure out which of the two sides of the brain that they're using more dominantly when telling a story. If you want to check out anything that has to do with left brain or right brain thinkers, I'm going to leave a few articles in the description box below. But to sum it all up, the right brain is credited for being more artistic, more creative, whereas the left brain is credited for being more logical, more mathematic in thinking. So for body language sake, I'm going to be paying attention to his eyes and the direction that they tend to bounce and what side of the brain he seems to scan more whenever he's trying to retell his story. Keep in mind, the left brain is more credited for sequencing of events whenever you are actually telling a story that follows itself. Logically, of course.
And I was like, oh, whoops. But then someone comes around the door right in my face. This person is wearing a hat, and a mask like this. And they have a knife in their hand, a kitchen knife. And I'm like, what kind of joke is this? What kind of prank is this? Who are you? I can't see their face, and I'm looking in their eyes trying to figure out if I know this person from somewhere, if it's a friend or a friend of a friend, or what it is. I know it's some kind of joke, or at least I'm telling myself it is, but he makes it quite clear that it's not a joke, and he says, go inside your house. I have this knife, you don't want to mess with this. And so after about a minute, just like what's going on here? I go inside, he goes inside, closes the door, and now I'm basically held in my own house with a guy with a knife who I don't know. I keep asking him questions like, what's going on here? Like, who are you? Do I know you? Like, how do you know me? How'd you find me? Like, and all these questions. And he would reveal little pieces of information here and there. Basically, he wanted to steal my identity. He wanted every single piece of information I had about my personal, my personal accounts, in my history, and just every single piece of information that would link to me.
So I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I promise you guys that. In body language, you need more than one tell in order to decide whether or not someone is being deceptive. Right now, I am seeing a lot of visual stress. His movements are jerky, his eyes are kind of bouncing everywhere, but for the most part, they're staying locked in that right part of the brain. Usually for men, they do tend to be a lot smaller in their body language, but even as for something so traumatic like this, whenever you see someone come at you with a knife and threaten to hurt you, you would show some sort of emotional response, whether that be big or small. But for him, in this particular situation, I don't see any of that. I don't see any emotional remembrance whenever he's telling this story so far. As well as that, there's another sign that somewhat indicates deception or dishonesty or creativity in the brain, and that's called the believe me look. This movement that he does, the believe me look, that is basically whenever your brain is working so hard to create an image inside of it that your eyebrows and your eyes are unable to relax. That's why you see his eyebrows go up and stay in that stressed, uncomfortable position. So like I said, depending on the duration, this sign is usually a tell of deception.
You know what I'm saying? Social media, past job experience, college experiences, addresses, everything. Bank stuff, like every little thing. And he said he was going to steal my identity and go to America and make some money somehow. I'm not sure how. I asked him. He didn't tell me. I know now what his plan was, but he also said he knew where my girlfriend lives. He also said he knew where my parents live. And he had a knife. I'm not going to mess with that. I'm not going to, even if in my head I'm like, well, even if I were to escape, he knows where all the people who mean most to me live,
So something that I find kind of weird / interesting, whenever he's retelling this story and he's talking about how this man knew where his girlfriend lived, where his parents lived, he is staying so far out of emotion, it's ridiculous. And normally, whenever someone is telling a story, especially one this traumatic, this scary, there's going to be some sort of sign that they're remembering, what the room looked like, what the man's eyes looked like, what his voice sounded like, where he was standing in relationship to where Ben was sitting, where this man had placed his knife. There'd be some sort of recollection and remembering and some sort of visual image in his head of this happening.
And he's obviously insane. He's breaking into my house with a knife. He's insane. I can't trust that. So I'm just going to comply to what he says. He tells me to sit down on the floor, against the farthest wall away from the door. So I sit on the floor. He has a backpack. He pulls out some really heavy duty, like zip ties or cable ties. And he has me put them around first my ankles. And these are like, you're not breaking these. These are like industrial strength. And I do it, and he checks. He says, "Do it tighter." So I do it tight. I'm not running anywhere in that state. And then he brings out some more that are already kind of formed into like, handcuff type of things, and he has me put those around my wrists as well. I put them around my wrist, and he didn't check the tightness of my wrist. He checked the tightness of the ones around my ankles, but
Like I said, you need at least more than one tell in order to assume that someone is lying. In this video, I see a lot of head shaking, I see a lot of lipping, I see a lot of blinking, and those are all signs of trying to soothe oneself whenever they're stressed out and thinking about what they're saying in a very concentrated manner. And he's talking about his arms, his hands, his wrists being constrained, but whenever he's showing this in a physical manner, he's holding his arms up and he's doing the motions, but he's not clenching his fists together. He's not showing any sort of sense of tension like there was an actual restraint put in place. Not to mention the rest of his body is very still while he's focusing so fucking hard on his hands. It all just reads as, your body's not singing, dude. Are you sure that this actually happened?
Thank God he didn't check the tightness around my wrist. And I'm thinking, if I have any chance to escape, I'm going to need to be able to use my hands first. And so I thought about it, and when I was doing that, in that split second, I kind of made the one around my right wrist slightly loose, to where I could possibly slip my hand out of it if I really shoved it out. I wasn't going to make it too tight where I would be completely immobilized. So I had that going for me in the back of my mind, and, which was, at that time though, I'm thinking, well, even if I do escape, like, he has a knife, like, he knows where people live. There's probably no chance, that I can escape. I just gotta give this guy my information. So he gives me a notebook with all these things written out on it, place of birth, date of birth, bank information, and like he just says, fill it out. He hands me the notebook and hands me a pen, and he's having me fill out like all this information, which goes on for a while. And during this, I'm just like asking him, like, what's, like, can I give you? I'm just gonna give you my money. I'll just give you all my money. I'll just give you my wallet. You can just get out of here now. I'm thinking in my mind, I just want to meet SJ. Like, that's all I want to do. And he had me like...
Okay, this is completely unrelated to body language whatsoever, but seriously? This is the story he's trying to pass off? Just this one little scene, I'm sorry for getting so angry, but like, what? You were basically kidnapped, held hostage, and the only thing you can think about is trying to see your girlfriend? What?
Yeah, anyway, I'm like, man, that's the only thing I want to do right now, is not be trapped in my own house. He said it would take maybe an hour or hours to fill out all the information. So I'm thinking, I just don't want to be here for hours with this Captain Insano. I want to leave and meet SJ. So I'm filling out this notebook. It takes a minute. It's maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know. And for some reason, he gets really preoccupied with my door. I'm not sure why exactly. Maybe just in case one of my friends came, or I don't know. But he kept going to my door, opening it, looking out in the hallway, taking a step or two into the hallway even, and just kind of monitoring the area around my door. And I also noticed that he had left the knife that he brought on my desk, which was, at that point, it was closer to me than it was to him when he was at the door. But he would go back and forth from the door into the middle of the room, check on like if I was doing everything right. And yeah, like I said, I was probably filling that out for 10, 20 minutes. I don't know. The time was a blur to me. But for about 5 minutes there, toward the end, I'm thinking, man, I could potentially escape. If he's at the door, I could slip my hand out of this thing that I left loose, hop up, grab the knife on the table, which is maybe a step or two away from me, cut the zip tie around my ankles.
Now, in a moment like this, especially whenever you're thinking about escaping a situation like this that could potentially be deadly, your brain is most likely going all over the place. Like, it's thinking, 1,000 thoughts a nanosecond, right? But the way that he's delivering this, the way that he is using a turtle's pace to explain this story, and whenever he actually does do the jerky movement of, saying, I'm going to cut the zip tie, and how his neck stays stiff, and how his eyes do not move away from the camera, at all whatsoever. He's just like fucking staring it down. Yeah, that's a huge tell that none of that actually happened the way that he is saying it happened. If your body isn't singing with you while telling a story, if your words aren't singing with you, if your tone, your pace, if none of that is working together, then what kind of story do you have? A fake one.
And then go and try to escape. So after about 5 minutes of debating in my head, I'm like, man, yeah, F this, man. Really just F this situation. I'm not down for this, man. I'm not down for this guy doing this to me. So that's what I do. He was at the door. I think he took like one step out and was just looking around the hallway. I slipped my hand out, grabbed the knife from the desk, cut the zip tie on my ankles real quick, so I'm pretty much free, you know. All my limbs are mobile. I start heading toward the door where he is, and I have my golf clubs are sitting right next to the door.
I mentioned this in my last video, but basically these quick little movements that people will do where they'll touch their nose or their mouth or their face very quickly multiple times within a couple of minutes. Most of the time that means the brain is trying to hide or cover up any deceitful words that you're saying. It's basically a nonverbal cue of like, oh shit, I'm telling a lie. I need to stop myself, but I'm not going to. It also can be a big tell that the person that is telling the story doesn't believe that any of their viewers or anyone listening to this story will believe them.
Wow, what kind of body language expert are you? He's just scratching his nose. Did you hurt your arm from that reach?
No, guys, whenever someone scratches their nose, it looks a lot different from just touching the face for a quick second. And most of the time, whenever you scratch your nose, you're not going to come back a second later and do it again. To save you guys the trouble and the extremely long video, Ben was apparently able to break free after getting his hands loose, and he just booked it for the door, got in a little scuffle, but all in all, ended up okay, was able to call the cops once he got outside of his house.
I had a cut on my thumb from the knife.
Where's it at, though?
And that was I didn't feel anything at that point, just straight up panic. Yeah, and then the cops came, like 10 cops showed up pretty quick.
So again, just to save you guys some time, just to save this video from being a million years long, then he details his entire experience with the cops. It's the same deal, guys. He just doesn't go into emotion whatsoever. Like, it seems really spotty and jumpy, and I don't necessarily follow his story, but that's just me. I'll leave a link to his original video below. So this is where I'm going to end today's video. Basically, the gist is that this could be completely true, all of it, but I personally don't believe it is. A lot of people were angry that in his description box, all it was a link to his Instagram, his Twitter, and his Patreon. So it kind of seems like this entire story might have been something he was just making up for pity, for support, for the likes, for the views, and for people to check out his Patreon and donate to him because, you know, obviously he's just been through something so traumatic. My idea is maybe he just wanted to take off a couple of weeks from YouTube and then decided to come back with a bang. I don't know. If I am wrong about this entire situation, then I thoroughly apologize to Ben Deen. This is, you know, my first instinct. This is my initial reading of this video. I've only seen this video, you know, twice, this being the second time I've seen it, so it just doesn't seem genuine to me. I apologize if I've offended anyone. Just feel free to take whatever you want out of this video. If you believe him, you believe him. If you don't, you don't. At the end of the day, the only thing that's important to me is that there are more truthful YouTubers out there. You know, if you're gonna tell a story the way it actually happened. There are a lot of naive people out there on YouTube that are just waiting to give these frauds their money. Thank you guys for watching my videos and for supporting me, my videos, my live streams. I appreciate it so much. I'm really trying to make any of my videos from now on completely 100% accurate in my readings. I'm doing my research. I want to make my content as best as I can for you guys. I'm always growing, I'm always learning, I'm always trying to change things. So if you guys have any suggestions for my channel or the directions you want it to go in, or even stories that you want me to cover, just go ahead and leave a comment down below and I'll read as many as I can. I promise you guys. Alright, have a good day. See ya.